Check this out, y'all. A bald eagle right here. Look at him. He is going after these cowbirds. I kid y'all not. Man, I hope I can zoom in on this. I told y'all we have bald eagles. Wow, that's a crazy way to start the morning right there. A bald eagle chasing my cowbirds. You never know what you see out here in the country. So welcome back, everybody. My name's Andrew and you're watching the Kelley's Country Life. And I'm talking fast paced and I'm out of breath because I just got back from getting this. I have a short window that I have rented this awesome looking ditch witch, and I'm already behind this morning. We had troubles hooking it up and some other stuff going on with the ball and coupler, and I've lost time. So I've got to get with it. I have several hundred feet of trenches to dig and got to get this back about 20 miles away in about 3 hours. So we've got to get with it. So I'm super excited to rent this. I know it's still dark, it's early this morning. I have never rented a ditch witch with tracks. I hope this is going to be a pleasant experience. All the ditch witches that I've rented before had wheels on them and they're horrible. I hate them. You fight the machine, or you work the machine harder than it works, if you know what I mean. Can't stand it. So I'm thinking this one's gonna pull itself good, stay straight. Really looking forward to that. And it's got a nice big motor on it too. I'm used to everything being a whole lot smaller. So the plan today, we're getting out of the house. We're gonna get some fresh air. We have got to run from those stub outs that we have over there. We're putting a meter box on this black one that's on the right. We've got to run from there all the way over to the power pole, lay in our 2.5-inch conduit. Per co-op code, it has to be 24 inches or deeper, which was a shock to me when they come over and told me that, because the last time I run power over to my shop, they required it to be 36 inches deep. And the last ditch which I rented just about couldn't get that deep, and I had to dig out way down in there with a trench shovel. It was a nightmare. So I was pleased to hear they've come back up to 24 inches. Why they've done that, I don't know, but 2 foot deep, still quite deep, especially just out here in our yard in the country. Also, while we have the ditch witch, we're going to run a ditch that we can pull power to the pump, because I want the pump running off of the house, so when I hook up the generator we can still get showers in a power outage. And I need to run a water line from over there to this stub end to the house right here. We're going to dig down, and this is the actual stub end that feeds the entire house right here. Also, while I have it, we're going to run and put a spigot, I think, on that very far pole, because eventually a pool's going out there. So I want a nice big 1-inch water line run over there to fill the pole in the future, and flowers, anything else we do. And while we have it, we might as well ditch and run all the way around the house, put another spigot over here, probably on that pole, because we would definitely have flowers and stuff to water up there. All right, so I've decided I will not be putting the meter box on until after I put siding on. It's just gonna give me a cleaner look and seal things up better. And then I don't have to build some special plate out here that looks a bit odd to hold this and everything else I'm gonna mount on the house. So now is the time that it is critical that I get this set up correctly. So I know this knockout, no, that's right, we're coming to the bottom. I know this knockout right here is how we're bringing power into the house, and this knockout right here is the one that's gonna feed my main panel in there. So I need to match this up with that, mark on the house where my drop pipe or downspout, whatever you wanna call it, will be, that'll receive power from the pole over there. That way I don't wind up with everything crooked and off of here and fighting each other. All right. So that's matched up to the knockout. It looks like. All right, so now we take our handy dandy level and mark out where this pipe's gonna go. All right, so now that I know right where I want my pipe to come up, I'm gonna drive a piece of rebar. Now I had to buy some rope because you have to run it through that big 2.5-inch conduit so the power company can actually pull the wire all the way over here. So I got a nice thick heavy duty rope. It's an anchor line rope and actually comes with this loop. which is perfect to put right there. And we'll pull this out. This is how I'm gonna mark where I'm gonna dig. So now I just run all the way over to that power pole. All right, so now all I have to do is pull this rope, lift it up, get it nice and tight before I set it back down on the grass. And I have a nice straight line here that I can spray paint beside. And I've got my rope offset just a little from center of the pole, and I've got it offset center from the meter over there, so I can spray paint to the right side of it, but not completely spray paint up my rope. So no matter how good the ditch witch is, there's always dirt that falls back in. There's always something that collapses, or you can't get too close to something. So there's always manual labor. But I'd rather dig a few feet here than have to dig 200 foot through this soil. While it looks nice and fluffy, it packs hard. It packs really hard. Now my electrical co-op makes me use what's called a long sweep 90. You can't really have straight bends because, well, you got to run very large wire over to the house. So they want a nice gradual bend, so when they start pulling wires, it doesn't kink or hang up on them. Now our power company does not provide the conduit, the trenching, or the rope that I am required to run through here so they can pull the wire all the way out the other end. But thankfully they do provide the wire, which would be unbelievably expensive right now. So I've already got this rope fed through my long sweep 90. Now I have to start carrying it through every single pipe. And how I did this before is I just grab a 10-foot piece of PVC, tape this rope on, and I'll just start slinging it through as I go. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't even know if I have to glue this conduit. I always have, but I just went looking on the power pole. All I have to do is come out of the ground just, you know, a few inches a foot for them to for the power company to start connecting their conduit. There ain't no glue, no nothing. Theirs is just slid together, so you would think they would know the rules better than anybody else. So if they didn't use any glue, I don't even know if I need to be doing this, but I'm doing it. Well, I forgot to record at the very end, but it worked out beautiful. I went back, kind of had to guess because the pipe was up in the air, cut about 4 inches off of one piece, put my elbow on, and it spaced off the house perfect. So I can get my lap siding behind it, then we'll finish extending it once we get siding on the house and actually stick the meter box up. Now what I have to do is go and make for sure that I'm getting the appropriate depth. Now here's the bad thing, ditch witches will dig, 3 foot deep if you want them to, but you have so much dirt that caves back in there. It would take me all day long to go dig this all the way back out with a trench shovel. It would be a nightmare. But what you're left with is it'll cave back in and you'll have 6-8 inches of fluffy dirt in the bottom. You can go back with something like a 2x4 and I can measure from the top of the pipe to the grass line, and you'd be surprised how far you can pack this conduit down into that fluffy soil. So you don't have to do quite as much digging as you think. And I need to get this down to the depth that my co-op said, because my inspector actually will come out here. I've seen them come out with little metal rods, and they'll actually see, even if you covered up some areas, they can stick down and they can feel when they hit the top of the conduit, pull the rod out and measure. But I'm also required to leave certain areas open so they can come back visually inspect that I'm meeting the proper depth here. So that's what I'm about to do. Start packing this down, make sure I'm getting the depth that's required so the inspector will be pleased. Yeah, there goes my tape measure. All right, so what I'm going to be doing here is finishing up a trench that will not only run my power from the house out to here, but will feed the main water line to the house. I can't find anywhere in the National Electric Code that says you cannot run power and water in the same trench. That's been common practice around here forever. What I do recommend is dig your trench a little deeper, because for water lines down here, it really doesn't matter. We just try to get them low enough that you don't hit them with, say, tractor equipment. If you were disking the yard up, we have no frost line here. That'll be different up north. But I dig this trench a whole lot deeper. It's just probably, oh, I don't know, I can't even really see the bottom, maybe close to 2 foot deep like some of the other trenches I dug yesterday. And I will always lay my power line down first, then you come back with the water line. That way, if you were ever be trenching or digging, you would chip up and dig pieces of water line first before you ever got to the electrical cable underneath. I'd much rather hit water than electrical. But you need to check your area to see if it's even allowed. All right, so this is one big reason I'm not the world's biggest believer in primer. I understand certain situations require it, but a lot of situations don't if you read the code. But regardless of using primer or not, sandpaper is key. This is so roughed up, so dirty, so scratched and beat to death from riding around the delivery truck, everything else. It is not going to give a good seal, no matter what you use, other than sand all the rough edges down. This will give you a nice rough finish that I think the glue works better with. And I never have joints fail that are properly prepped. And you always want to wipe that junk clean that you just sanded off. Now we don't have all that rough scarred up stuff going on right there. And always prep your fitting, make sure it's nice and clean too, and clean out anything, rough it up as well. I also like to cap the end of my pipe anytime I'm working around dirt like this as I start sliding it, especially my water lines, because otherwise you're just going to wind up jabbing it into the dirt, getting a huge plug of dirt in there, not even realizing it, gluing the joint, and guess what? When you turn that water on, you're blowing that into all the lines, everything else inside of the house. So just a quick removable cap will keep your stuff nice and clean, and it keeps your joint cleaner too. Now, you seen me yesterday use these boards. I like to do that whenever I'm putting PVC into a trench, because then I can easily move it back and forth from downstream without caving my trench in. It really seems to help. All right, so if you'll notice, the tank has an 1.25 inch line. That's kind of standard for these big galvanized tanks right here. And I am stepping it down to 1 inch, which is still quite large. I'd say the majority of people run 3/4 inch water lines to spigots around the yard and to feed a house. Now, we're not going to get into the debate too much about feeding a house with PVC. Some people say it's potable water safe, some people say it isn't. If you'll read the NSF, the National Sanitation Foundation, on a lot of this stuff, and if it's stamped with that, everything I'm reading says it is. I've been drinking out of PVC lines my entire life. 100% trust them, and then we're going to step it down to CPVC at the house, which is also potable water safe. Definitely is, probably more so than PVC itself. I think where people got a misconception on PVC was back in the day it was made with different plasticizers and chemicals. That was kind of back when that PBA scare started. Now you see everything stamped PBA free. I think a lot of the PVCs have went to that now, but read up on the National Sanitation Foundation about PVC, and you'll see some of the stuff's changed. Is there safer options out there? Probably so, but I 100% do trust PVC. Been using it my entire life. Now the other reason I went to 1 inch and not 3/4 like most people do is because I like high flow to all my spigots that I'm going to put around the house. I don't need 1 inch to feed the house itself. 3/4 up there is plenty large enough to supply all the water I need to the most demanding appliances inside of the house, from the shower to the washing machine, dishwasher, all that. Most of that stuff could run off a 1/2 inch. The shower and all, I'd like to step up to 3/4 inside. But this 1 inch line, the reason I also wanted it too, is much higher flow, a lot more capacity than 3/4. But I'm jogging off to the corners of the house, and eventually we're going to put a pool over here, and I'd like to feed it with a minimum of 1 inch line. I may even run another trench over to it later to do an 1.25 inch line. But essentially, once the pool is filled up, I don't ever need more than a 1 inch line just to keep it topped off with evaporation. Plus, 1 inch costs not much more than 3/4. You might as well go ahead and get full flow to everything. I also use full port valves, and I've started using full port spigots. I've got to change a few more out. It's not much more money for a good brass full port valve. You would be shocked at how much more flow you'll get out of watering wands and taking care of flowers, things like that, with just by stepping up to full port spigots on top of 1 inch line. It makes a huge difference. Also, you're probably wondering why I have this here. I have to clean this tank out every so often. We have a little bit of fine clay silt in our water, so you're going to see me put a couple of whole house filters up there. I already run them around the property. I change a $2 filter out every 2 to 3 months, and it filters all that out just fine. That's really the only thing we have going on with our water, just fine clay silt, which is not uncommon at all. So this is a full clean out port here that I can blow the tank out, empty it, stir it up, flush it, and then go change my filters, like I say, every couple months. So this is what I'm slowly changing all my spigots to. I don't like the old twist kind anymore. They're really neck down tiny. This is a 1/4 turn valve, so real easy to operate, and it's full port. Huge opening, about 3 to 4 times the size of what you get on them old cheap spigots that you get at the hardware store. Now this costs twice as much, but that's really not bad for what you're getting. I think I ordered these off of Amazon. They were maybe 15 to 20 bucks. They last forever. That 1/4 turn is very nice, and they don't tend to leak as bad and have them little cheap O-rings that wear out like your typical ones. So I'm about to thread all this up into a 90, and we're going to go complete our first outdoor spigot right there by the porch. All right, so all that's left to do is to let all this glue set up for a while, pressure test the system, and then start covering everything up, with the exception of a little bit of the electrical line, because the inspector has to check the depth on that. As far as all this outdoor plumbing goes, this technically has not much to do with the house. It's just something I wanted to do while we already had the ditch witch rented. All right, y'all, we are completely covered up, except for that very far end I have left open for the inspector to measure. And I've got a pipe right here that's actually sitting on top of the conduit that he can measure. We can pull it out, he can stick his tape measure down there. So we should be good to go. I am out of breath and panting because I just got done shoveling and raking, kind of getting everything to where I want it. So while the yard looks a mess right now, it does not take long to grow weeds and grass here, although we're going into the wrong type of season for that. So I'll overseed all this with some grass seed that I have and start getting it growing, but I'm not going to get grass growing up next to the house just yet, because I'm going to get a few dump truck loads of topsoil brought in and get away from this old sugar sand right here that's low in nutrients, put an inch or two up top, and then really get the grass seed and all growing up here. And ultimately we're going to wind up doing, you know, mulch or flowers or something around the outside of the house, but no point in getting crazy with the grass seed up here just yet. But all this, yeah, we want to get the yard back looking good. So I am out of breath, burning up. It's been a long couple days to get all this done. So we'll ultimately get the inspector out here in another week or so once we start getting some siding on the house, get the electrical wrapped up for rough end. About that time I should have the rough end plumbing wrapped up. We'll have the gas company done run their gas line so he can check that. So we're gonna have like 4 or 5 inspections for him to come out and do at one point in time. I'm sure he's going to find some stuff that is what it is, and I will let you know absolutely everything that he does find. But next episode is going to be us wrapping up the plumbing inside. Then we're going to move to some siding. I at least need to get this wall some siding up so I can stick my meter can box and sub panel out here, get all that wired up. I kind of need that for rough end electrical. I've accepted a deal with the spray foam company, so we're good to go there. The other window company has reached back out to me. So we've got a lot going on. I've got another window company coming out. I'm still working with the one that I first worked with. We'll go with whoever can give me the quickest time frame. We're kind of just got behind on doors. I'll explain that in another episode. So a lot's going on, but I have got to stay with it, get these inspections done, because in just a few weeks, I've already got an appointment with the spray foam installer, and I need to be ready for him. Thank y'all so much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I'm going to cool off. See y'all.